thrown out in the cold. The twin suns of planet Zareth burned high in the yellow sky. The heat cracked the ground, and wind carried dust like dry whispers. In the center of the stone road stood Valira, her cloak torn and her hands trembling as she held her two small children close. Her older child, Carrie, looked up at her with wide, scared eyes. The younger one, Denu, clung to her leg, coughing weakly. They had no food, no water, no home. Just hours ago, Valira had been forced out of her city. The Council of Elders had spoken coldly. "You are no longer one of us," they said. "Your children are half-bloods. Their father was a human. Leave, now." She had cried. She had begged. But no one helped. Her own sister turned her back. Even her neighbors, whom she once healed with her hands, looked at her with shame and disgust. Now, Valira and her children walked across the burning desert path. Each step was heavy. Her feet bled. Her children were weak from thirst, but she couldn't stop. "We're almost there," she whispered to them. "We'll find shelter soon." But where? No Zarethi city would accept her. She had only one place left to go: a human border station. It was dangerous. Her people always said humans were cruel, violent, and ate flesh. But maybe, just maybe, they would be better than the ones who had thrown her out. By sunset, Valira found an abandoned cargo station, rusty walls, a broken satellite dish. Nothing moved. She crawled into a corner beside a large metal crate, pulling her children close under her thin cloak. The winds howled louder now. Cold sand blew across their faces. Denu shivered in her arms. "Mama, I'm scared." Valira kissed his forehead. "Shh, I'm here. I won't let anything hurt you." But inside she was scared too. Suddenly a soft thud echoed from behind the crate. She held her breath. Someone was there. A tall shadow stepped into the fading light. Her heart jumped. It was a human. He wore an old uniform, dusty boots, and a long coat. His face was half covered with a scarf, and his eyes were pale blue like frozen water. Valira quickly covered her children with her cloak and crouched low. Her mind screamed, "Run, hide, protect them." But then, the man knelt down slowly. He didn't pull out a weapon. He didn't shout. Instead, he placed something on the ground: a water bottle, a small food pack, and a blanket. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at her children. Then, softly, in broken Zarethi language, he said, "They hungry?" Valira stared at him, too stunned to answer. The man slowly pushed the supplies closer and backed away. Valira's hands shook as she reached out. She tested the water first. It was clean, cold, real. She let Denu sip first, then Carrie. Her eyes filled with tears. "No poison," the man said gently. "Safe." Still unsure, she asked, "Why? Why help us?" The man looked at her children again. "Because they are small and scared. Just like my daughter once." Valira's lips parted. "You had a child?" He nodded slowly. "Long time ago, war took her." Silence fell between them. The wind softened. The stars began to blink above the hills. Valira felt something strange. Hope. A small flicker. A human showing kindness. "What's your name?" she asked. "Jack," he replied. "Mine is Valira." Jack stood slowly, looked around, then said, "Not safe here. Come." Valira hesitated. What if it was a trap? What if he was like the monsters the elders warned her about? But then Carrie stood and tugged her hand. "Mama, he gave us water. He's not bad." Valira looked at Jack one last time. He didn't look powerful or rich, but he looked real, tired, honest. She took her children's hands and stood. "Okay," she said quietly. "We'll come." As they followed Jack through the quiet dark, Valira didn't know where they were going. She didn't know if she could trust him, but she did know one thing: No Zarethi had ever offered her water, or food, or kindness, but this human just had. The human's name was Jack. The metal door creaked as it opened. Valira stepped inside slowly, holding Denu in one arm and gripping Carrie's hand tightly. Her eyes scanned every corner of the old building. The place was worn down, walls scratched, lights flickering, but it was dry, warm, and quiet. After days in the sandstorms, it felt like a palace. Jack closed the door behind them and walked ahead, not looking back. He didn't ask questions. He didn't act like a savior. He just cleared a bench and placed the blanket and supplies on it. Valira didn't move. Her body was still alert. Her heart still told her to run. But Carrie stepped forward and whispered, "Mama, it smells like soup." Jack turned and gave a small smile. He held out a steaming cup. "Food," he said simply. "Not much, but warm." Valira took it slowly. Her fingers brushed his for a second. Rough hands, scarred skin. Not soft like a healer's, but hands that had worked, hands that had bled. She gave the cup to Denu, who sipped and smiled. Kari followed, her eyes wide with wonder. Valira watched. Them. The pain in her chest eased slightly. They were safe for now. Jack sat on a nearby crate and leaned back. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was gentle. After a while, Valira spoke softly. "Why are you doing this?" Jack opened his eyes. "Because once, someone helped me when no one else would." She tilted her head. "A Zarethi?" He laughed quietly. "No, not your kind, not even mine. An old alien trader, smelled like fish. Saved me from slavers. Never told me why, just said, 'Good men don't need reasons.'" Valira looked at him. "You think you're a good man?" Jack didn't answer. He just stared at the ceiling and said, "I try." She sat down slowly, pulling her children close. "My people say humans are dangerous, that you eat meat, even flesh sometimes." Jack chuckled. "Only on weekends." Valira's eyes went wide. "I'm joking," he said quickly, then scratched his beard. "Mostly." Carrie giggled. Denu laughed too, a soft sound that warmed Valira's heart. For the first time in days, her shoulders relaxed, but peace didn't last long. Suddenly, a red light blinked above the door. Jack stood fast. His hand reached for a panel near the wall. "What is it?" Valira asked, alarmed. Jack frowned. Scanner picked up a patrol. Could be Zarethi, could be smugglers. Valira stood too. "They'll take us. They'll take my children." Jack looked her in the eyes. "No, I won't let that happen." He opened a side panel on the wall and pulled out a folded piece of cloth. A camouflage cloak, standard human military issue. "Put this on." "Stay. Behind those crates, no sound." Valira didn't question. She grabbed her children and crouched behind the metal containers. She could hear Jack moving fast, checking controls, turning off lights, locking the door. Then everything went still. Red lights flashed outside the small window. Shadows moved. Voices. Zarethi voices. Valira held her breath. "Human outpost. You are sheltering a fugitive," a voice called through a translator. "A traitor of the Zarethi law. Give them to us and we won't bring war." Jack stepped to the door, calm and steady. He pressed a button and his voice echoed back through a speaker. "No one's here but me." "We detected 3 warm bodies." "Backup generator," Jack replied. "Runs hot." There was silence. Valira could feel her children shaking in her arms. The voice came again, colder now. "If we find you lying, human, we will burn this station." Jack didn't flinch. "You want to start a war over a lie? Go ahead. But don't forget, humans don't back down." Another silence. Then, the shadows moved away. Red lights vanished. The sound of hoverbikes faded into the night. Valira covered, her mouth. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Jack walked to the crates and opened the cloak. "It's okay, they're gone. Valira stood slowly, hugging her children tightly. You lied for us. Risked everything. Jack shrugged. Guess I'm a terrible host. She looked at him. This man, this human, was not a monster. He was brave, strange, and more kind than anyone she had ever known. What now? She asked. Jack smiled faintly. Now we hide better. And tomorrow, we figure out what to do next. Sanctuary or trap. The next morning, the sons of Zareth were hidden behind clouds, and a soft, cold breeze blew through the broken windows of the outpost. Valira opened her eyes slowly. She had fallen asleep leaning against the wall, her children curled up beside her under the thick human blanket. For the first time in many nights, no one was chasing them. But peace never lasted long for outcasts. She looked around and saw Jack working silently at an old machine. Sparks flew. He wore goggles, hands covered in black grease. He didn't notice she was watching. Denu stirred and sat up, rubbing his eyes. Is it morning, Mama? Valira nodded. Yes, love. And we're still here? Jack finally noticed them and gave a small wave. Good, you're awake. I fixed the door. Now it won't open unless I say so. We're safer now. Valira hesitated. Why are you doing this, Jack? You don't even know us. Jack set his tools down and sat on an empty crate. I know enough, he said. I know fear when I see it. I know what it's like to lose everything. She sat across from him, curious. You were a soldier? He nodded slowly. A long time ago, during the border wars, my unit was sent to rescue hostages on a Zarethi ship. But when we got there were no soldiers, just women and children. Valira's eyes narrowed. And what did you do? I disobeyed orders, he said. I helped them escape. Some were hybrids, like your children. My own side called me a traitor. Zarethi command called me a liar. He looked away. No one believed me. I lost everything. Valira's voice softened. So, you know how it feels, to be cast out. Jack smiled sadly. That's why I couldn't leave you outside. It's not just about kindness, it's about not repeating old mistakes. Denu crawled into Jack's lap without warning and poked at his goggles. You look like a bug, the boy giggled. Jack laughed. A very handsome bug, I hope. Valira watched the two and felt something stir inside her, something dangerous, trust, but just as the warmth started growing, a loud ping came from Jack's comm screen. He moved fast. Someone just entered the outer scanning field, he said. Valira stood quickly. More patrols? Jack checked the screen. No, just one life form. Small. Could be animal, could be scout. He grabbed a worn jacket and signaled her to stay inside. Lock the door behind me, don't open it until I knock twice, then once. But what if? Just do it, Valira, please. He stepped out into the gray wind. Valira stood near the door, hand shaking. Carrie held her tightly. Mama. What? If something happens to him? Valira didn't answer. Minutes passed, then more, then too many. She paced the floor, her heart beat louder than the wind outside. Then she heard it. 2 knocks, and 1. She rushed to open the door. Jack stood there, breathing heavily, and in his arms was a small alien animal covered in fur and frost. Food, he said. Well, if we cook it right. Valira stared. You hunted that? Don't look at me like that. It tried to bite me first. He placed the animal gently down. It's clean. No disease. You'll need the strength. Valira lowered her eyes. I've never eaten meat. Not even once. Jack smiled. You'd be surprised what you'll do when your kids are hungry. That night, Valira did what she thought she never would. She helped Jack clean and cook the animal. The children ate like they hadn't tasted food in days, and maybe they hadn't. When the stars appeared, Jack lit a small heater and handed Valira a metal cup of something warm. She sipped it, then stared into the flickering glow. This place, she whispered. It feels like a trap, but it also feels like home. Jack looked up. It can be both. She looked at him. You risked your life to bring food. For strangers. He leaned back, his voice soft. Maybe I'm tired of being alone too. Valira said nothing. But inside, her chest something new started to grow. Not just trust, not just hope. Maybe, just maybe, this human was part of her future. But outside, in the shadows of the hills, unseen eyes watched the outpost. And they were not kind. The cure and the price. The winds howled outside like angry spirits. But inside the human outpost, there was a deeper silence. Danu was burning up. Valira pressed a wet cloth to her son's forehead, but it did nothing. His skin was hot, his breathing sharp. His small body trembled with every breath. He won't stop shaking, she whispered, panic rising in her voice. His eyes, they're glassy. Jack knelt beside her, placing the back of his hand gently on Danu's chest. He's got a fever, a strong one. Carrie watched from the corner, curled up tightly, eyes wide with fear. Valira looked at Jack with tears in her eyes. He needs a healer. I used to be one. But this is beyond herbs or roots. It's something deep. Maybe from the cold last night? Jack stood up and paced. There's only one thing that might help. A human medkit, military issue, autoscan, autodose. Where is it? Valira asked quickly. Jack's jaw tightened. Locked in the command tower vault. The room is sealed. Only the commander has access. But there's no commander here, is there? There wasn't, Jack said slowly. But yesterday, I saw a signal. A new unit arrived 5 clicks north. One of the backup teams. If I go there, I might be able to convince them. Valira stood, her voice sharp. No. You said the humans don't trust you. If they find you helped hybrids, won't they arrest you? Jack didn't answer. Jack, she said again, more softly. If you go, they might take you away. He looked down at the boy, barely conscious, lips turning pale. And if I don't? He might not wake up at all. Silence. Then Jack moved fast. He grabbed his jacket, his comm chip, and a small energy pistol. Valira stood in front of the door. Wait. He turned. She swallowed hard. Why would you risk yourself for my son? Jack gave a tired smile. Because someone once saved my daughter. She never lived long after, but she had one more year because of that stranger. Maybe I'm just repaying the universe. He reached forward and squeezed her hand, just for a second. Keep the door locked. I'll be back before nightfall. Valira watched him disappear into the gray morning fog. Hours passed. The outpost grew colder. Danu's condition worsened. His breaths came in gasps. Kari cried softly, holding her brother's hand. Valira wanted to scream, wanted to run, wanted to do anything but wait. But she knew. If Jack didn't come back, she had nothing left to fight with. And then, when the sky began turning orange, footsteps. 2 knocks. 1. She threw the door open. Jack stumbled in, coughing, dragging a sealed black case. You got it, she cried. He collapsed against the wall. I didn't ask, I just took it. They're probably tracking me now. Valira opened the case. Inside, the medkit glowed. She pulled the scanner over Danu's chest and let the machine hum. It scanned. It beeped. Then the injector clicked. A blue serum flowed into the boy's neck. Seconds passed like hours. Then Danu coughed. Then again. Then he opened his eyes slowly. Thirsty, he whispered. Valira let out a cry, half laugh, half tears. She hugged him tightly, sobbing into his hair. Jack watched from the wall, his head tilted back, exhausted. You saved him, she whispered. He shook his head. You did? You didn't give up. She crawled over to him, her hands shaking. They'll come, won't they? The humans? He nodded weakly. I didn't have time to cover my tracks. Then we run. He looked at her, a trace of amusement in his eyes. And go where, Valira? There's nowhere left. She took a deep breath. Then we make a place. Somewhere in the waste. Somewhere. No Zarethi or human will come. A place for us. Jack looked into her eyes. And for the first time, he didn't see fear. He saw fire. He smiled. All right, healer. Then let's build something worth protecting. But outside, in the dunes behind, the rocks, two distant lights blinked. A human patrol had found the outpost and they were getting closer. The society that cast stone smoke from the outpost fire curled into the pale sky. Jack had burned the medkit case, wiped all data logs, and erased every sign of the trespass. But it was too late. Drones had seen him, and now they were coming. Valira stood outside the outpost, eyes fixed on the horizon. Her children were asleep inside, safe for now. The warmth had returned to Denu's cheeks. Kari had even laughed again, but Valira's heart was heavy. She could feel them. Her people. Zarethi patrols. Close. Watching. Judging. Jack came up behind her. They're coming, aren't they? She nodded slowly. Yes. They know I'm here. They probably always did. Then let's get ready. Valira turned. No, I will face them. Jack frowned. Valira, this is my fight. Not yours. Jack looked at her for a long time, then quietly said, They'll try to take the children. She stepped forward, voice cold. Let them try. Just before dusk, the Zarethi ship landed in a storm of dust. Its black wings spread wide, a symbol of purity and power. 5 figures stepped out, cloaked in white, gold armbands glowing. Among them, High Healer Rasha, Valira's former mentor. Valira walked alone toward them, the wind tearing at her robe. Jack stayed behind, one hand on his weapon, the other near the children. Rasha spoke first. You stand in exile, Valira. You were told to disappear. Yet here you are with the traitor. I am here, Valira said calmly, because I have children to protect. You mean the abominations? Another elder spat. Half-bloods. Mistakes. Valira's fingers curled into fists. They are children, kind, innocent, brave, and more pure in soul than all of you. You chose the human over your kind. No. Valira snapped. You chose fear over compassion. You call yourselves wise, yet you feared 2 small children. You call yourselves healers, but you left me to die. Rasha narrowed her eyes. You shame yourself, Valira. No, Valira said, her voice rising. I shame you. She pulled down her collar to show a jagged scar on her neck. This is what exile looks like. This is what your justice does. Behind her, Jack stepped forward now, rifle on his back, calm but alert. You want them? He said. You'll have to go through me. One of the Zarethi warriors raised his arm, then paused. The children had stepped out behind Jack. Kari looked up, not scared but steady. My brother was sick. The humans helped him. You left us. The warriors hesitated. Even Rasha blinked. Valira took a step closer. You call them monsters, but look who showed kindness, look who gave them food, warmth, safety. The wind grew stronger. One of the younger Zarethi guards lowered his weapon. Rasha noticed. What are you doing? I was told they were dangerous, he muttered, but they're just kids. Valira spoke again, her voice steady. You can live in fear forever, or you can let us go. We ask for no land, no favor, only peace. Jack added, and if you try to take them, you'll have war with someone who doesn't quit. The air was thick with tension. Then, Rasha turned. Let them rot out here. They're no longer Zarethi. They are nothing. She walked back to the ship. The others followed. But the young guard looked back once, and in his eyes, shame. The ship lifted into the sky, leaving behind only the wind and dust. That night, the fire burned quietly. The children were asleep again, dreaming without fear. Valira sat beside Jack, both watching the stars. "You didn't have to come out with that rifle," she said. "I know," Jack replied, "but I've learned one thing in this life. Sometimes just standing beside someone is enough." Valira looked at him. "You're not just a human, Jack. You're better than most Zarethi I've ever known." He smiled. "Don't let that get around." They laughed softly, and for the first time Valira didn't feel like an exile. She felt like something else, free. A fight at the gate. The gate to the human outpost stood tall, rusted, patched, and old, but still strong. It had once kept out wild beasts and desert storms. Tonight it would be tested again. Valira stood near the fire, sharpening a broken blade she had reforged from scrap metal. Jack checked the energy cells of his rifle. His expression was quiet, focused. Kari sat with her little brother, teaching him to tie knots from old wiring. Danu smiled, no longer weak and pale, but bright-eyed again. For 2 days there had been no sign of trouble. The Zarethi ship had flown away. The human patrols had gone silent. But peace, they had learned, never stayed long. At midnight, a loud warning chime echoed through the outpost. Red lights blinked on. Jack rushed to the scanner. He stared at the screen. "They're back." "Zarethi?" Valira asked, standing quickly. "No," Jack said. "Humans." Valira blinked. "Your people?" Jack's jaw tightened. "Not mine, anymore." The patrol ship landed with a metal groan outside the gate. 5 soldiers stepped out, taller, stronger, their faces hidden by dark helmets. One carried a flag with the symbol of Earth Enforcement Division. Their leader stepped forward, his voice cold through the speaker. "This is Outpost Delta 9. You are harboring illegal life forms. Surrender the alien children, or we will take them by force." Valira stepped forward. "They are not illegal. They are living beings. My children." "They were born from a Zarethi and a human soldier," the officer replied. "That makes them classified hybrids, unregistered, unauthorized, and a potential threat." Jack's hand moved to his weapon. "I fought for Earth. I bled for Earth. And this is how you treat a man protecting children?" The officer ignored him. "Last warning. Open the gate." Jack looked at Valira. She nodded once. "Then," Jack said loud and clear, "no." The first shot came fast. A blaster bolt hit the top of the gate, sending sparks everywhere. The children screamed and ducked behind the crates. Valira ran to cover them, her blade in hand. Jack rolled behind the barricade and fired a return shot, his aim perfect. 1 soldier fell. "They're serious," Jack shouted. "We hold or we lose everything." Valira's eyes blazed. She stood up, grabbed a flash bomb from Jack's pack, and hurled it through a broken window. The light exploded, blinding the soldiers for seconds. Jack moved like wind, silent, fast, deadly. He disarmed another attacker and turned their weapon on the squad. Valira ran in behind him, blade slashing. They weren't warriors, not trained soldiers, but they were something stronger. 2 parents defending their children. The fight lasted only minutes. When the dust cleared, 3 soldiers were down. 2 ran. Jack was bleeding from his shoulder. Valira had a bruise on her cheek, but they stood tall. The gate was still closed. The children rushed out. "Mama, Jack!" Valira fell to her knees and hugged them. Jack stumbled but stayed on his feet. He looked at the burning patrol ship and said, "They'll send more." Valira wiped blood from her chin. "Let them. We'll be ready." "But we can't stay here forever," he said. "We need somewhere permanent, somewhere hidden." Valira's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then we build it. For our kind. For the ones no one else wants." Jack looked at her. "Our kind?" She nodded. "Not Zarethi, not human, just family." That night they stood together at the top of the hill behind the outpost. Below them was the broken metal shell of the human building. But beyond the hills was open land, rivers, trees, life. Valira touched Jack's hand. We'll go there. We'll make something new. Not just for us, but for every outcast like us. Jack nodded slowly. Then let's start walking. And they did. 1 step at a time into the dark, but not alone. A second chance. The land beyond the hills was quiet. No patrols, no scanners, no broken towers or poisoned skies, just wide green fields, soft rivers, and tall trees that danced in the wind. A place untouched by war, by hate, by laws that forgot how to love. Valira stood at the edge of the clearing, her feet bare on the soft earth. Behind her, Jack helped Denu climb a tree while Carrie chased small glowing insects across the grass. It had been 3 weeks since they left the outpost. 3 weeks of walking, hiding, healing. But they had found it, their place. The new home was small. Just a roof made of gathered wood and heat-shielding metal from Jack's supply bags. But it was theirs. Safe. Free. Jack worked each day to set up solar panels for power and a signal jammer to keep scanners away. Valira cleared land and grew herbs. Her healer's touch had returned. Her hands no longer shook with fear, they worked with purpose again. Each night they sat together around the fire, not as outcasts, not as human or alien, but as something new, as family. One day, as the sun set behind the trees, Carrie sat beside Jack and looked up at him. Are we going to stay here forever? Jack smiled. If we can, we'll make it strong, make it last. She leaned her head on his arm. You're like my real papa now. Jack's breath caught for a moment. I don't know if I deserve that, he said. Valira, sitting nearby, looked at him. You do, more than anyone. That evening a sound came from the trees. Not a ship, not soldiers, just soft footsteps. Valira stood quickly, blade ready, but stopped. A small group stepped into the clearing, a Zarethi girl, a human boy, and behind them a woman, scared, tired, holding a baby with silver eyes. Valira lowered her weapon. The woman spoke. We heard there was a place, a safe place, where people like us could live. Jack stepped beside Valira. Who told you that? The woman smiled weakly. A soldier who used to be part of your army. He said, if we're lost, to follow. The old stars and the clean rivers, and we might find a home. Valira looked at Jack. He said nothing, just nodded once. She turned back to the woman. Then stay, we have food, shelter, and no questions. Tears filled the woman's eyes. Thank you. Days turned to weeks, weeks into months. More people came, a few. Then more, half-blood children, alien widows, human exiles, mixed families, who had been cast out by both sides. They came with nothing, but left behind everything. Valira taught healing again. Jack taught them how to build, how to defend without fear. The camp grew. A village. A hidden light in a world still full of shadows. One morning, as the mist rose from the fields, Valira stood outside her hut, watching her children chase birds. Jack walked up beside her. They've grown, he said. They're happy, she replied. He looked at her. Do you ever miss the old world? Valira thought for a long moment. No, she said softly. Because this is what the old world never gave me. A second chance. Jack looked out over the village, small fires, laughter, and peace. Me too, he whispered. Me too. On the edge of the village, they planted a tall wooden post, at the top carved in both human and Zarethi. Home is not where you are, born. Home is where someone fights for you to stay. And beneath that, in smaller letters, founded by 2 exiles, who believed in one more try.